You're listening to the Patriot Nation podcast.
All right, welcome into another edition of the Patriot Nation podcast. As always, your guy Pat Lane here with my man Matt St. Jean. A night before Thanksgiving episode. Wishing everyone out there happy Thanksgiving. And of course, tonight would be a night if you are recently graduated from high school or potentially even recently graduated from college. Tonight is like the night you guys go with all your buddies, go out to the bar, and hang out. Hopefully, if you're older than that, you're not doing that anymore. But I'm sure people are out there doing that. But I feel like once I got to a certain age, I was like, all right, I'm all set with that Wednesday night, unofficial high school reunion. You know what I mean?
I never did that.
No.
Yeah, some people in our class did it, but my high school class, we all just kind of had our friend groups. I don't think people were itching to get the whole class back together. I think people just hung out with their friends.
Yeah. So, but yes, either way, it's a fun holiday. Halloween, Jesus, Thanksgiving is one of my favorite holidays because you just eat your face off and then fall asleep on the couch watching football, and that's just like, what is better than that? What's more American than that? For God's sakes, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you love to see it. So
yeah. Speaking of food, we just got finished making some cookies.
Ooh, okay, all right.
They're oatmeal pumpkin cookies.
Okay.
Yeah, we both love oatmeal cookies. Good. I know they're not for everyone, but and they have like a pumpkin frosting on them too, which is delicious. I would eat just the frosting by itself.
I like that.
It was unbelievably good.
So I like that.
A little more frosting to do before bed.
That's all right. You can get that done. So my wife's been on a kick on a I guess a TikTok / Instagram recipes kick or whatever. And so she found a cookie recipe for like your old Halloween candy. So you like cut up all of your Halloween candy and you like mix it into this, like, it's a cookie mixture, but it's also not it's not like a traditional cookie. It's like got different ingredients than you would put in a normal cookie. I don't know what it is. I can't remember. Doesn't matter. The point is that it's basically all of the chocolate and Reese's and M&M's and Kit Kats and all that stuff all kind of mixed together into one like hodgepodge of a cookie. And it's, oh my God, dude, to die for. And then you put it in the freezer. You just make the balls, throw it in the freezer, take them out, cook them like 7 or 8 at a time, and then go from there, So
I feel like I would take those cookies and put them in the freezer and then eat them.
And then eat them all. Frozen. Yeah. That's part of the problem. You know what I mean? So I'm like, oh God, I think we have some left still, but I'm like, yeah, let's try to hold off as much as we can. Because if you put cookies in front of me, dude, I'll just eat cookies all day long.
Oh yeah.
Just put cookies in front of me. So
speaking of cookies like that, one last food related thing. My grandma, just like in general, she makes chocolate chip cookies and she makes them thin intentionally, like as flat as you can make them. And then she puts them in the freezer. And then you can just eat them out of the freezer. And they're like bark almost. They're thin and they're super crispy. And they are unbelievably good.
That's wild. I like that. It's
a happy accident that we figured that out. But how the flat frozens are a thing.
That's cool. I like that. All right, let's get into football before we both pause this and go eat something instead. So the Patriots going against the Colts this weekend. It's a disaster out there. The coaching was just horrendous on Sunday. We went over it. We talked about it. I will say, and this is part of my thing where, like, I don't want to blame. I'm not going to sit here and blame Belichick for the whole. We can't do that, right? I will say that Mayo and Wolf can get somewhat of a pass with the roster this year, right? Now, somewhat of a pass doesn't mean a whole pass, but it doesn't mean somewhat of a pass, right? They took Drake May at 3, which everyone says, well, it was a layup. It was obvious. He was there. He was the guy. That's not obvious. Like, it's not obvious. They had multiple offers to move out of 3, including the Giants, who made a decently sizable offer to get up from 6 to 3. The Patriots decided not to do that. Now, again, it's not a Belichick thing. I think there's a lot of coaches out there that maybe wouldn't have loved May and would have made that deal, right? And if the Patriots had made that deal, it would look a lot worse in Foxborough right now, right? If they hadn't made that Drake May pick. Now, obviously, the Jalen Polk pick was a disaster of a pick. You don't trade that pick. Ladd McConkey's been fantastic for the Chargers. He looks like the real deal, right? I think A.D. Mitchell, although is raw, looks a lot better than Jalen Polk does, certainly in game right now. It's not really close. And so there's obviously some second guessing in there, but at the other token, they tried to trade back into the first round because they wanted Keon Coleman or Xavier Legette. Both of those guys have been pretty damn good. And so
better than what the Patriots ended up with.
Absolutely. Right. And so, for me, I look at it and say, okay, well, they tried to move up. They had a deal in place for 28 and the Bills took a better deal for them, from Kansas City because they liked it. My assumption is that the Bills liked Keon Coleman and the Patriots are trading up for Legette. I might be wrong about that, but that's my assumption, right? Because why would the Bills move to 32 and then they wouldn't have gone back from 32 to 33 unless they had them both exactly the same? Yeah, I don't know, right? But either way, you figure I'm not going to get that guy at 34, but I'm probably going to get him at 32, right? And so they moved back to 32 instead of the 34. So I don't know.
What they have done with Jalen Polk is incredibly impressive within the context of the last 20 years of Patriots drafting. They have managed to find a worse second-round receiver than, at least in terms of production at this point in his rookie year, than Tyquan Thornton, than Chad Jackson, than Aaron Dobson. Who else is in there?
Disastrous. Yeah.
Yeah. I will say, I think on tape, Polk looks better than his numbers, but it still isn't good. It's still not where you want to be. Now, that said, I think Booty has kind of come back down to earth a little bit. Some drops, and then really not able to separate it all against Miami. So there's opportunities. It's not all said and done for either of the guys in this rookie class, but this is not where you want to be with those guys. You'd feel a lot better if it was Keon Coleman. That's why I wanted Coleman so much in the draft. I really liked his profile, his fit for this team. I think he'd be a really good ad for this. And it's just the way things went, unfortunately.
Well, I'll be honest with you, man. I as you know, I don't watch a ton of college football. I loved Keon Coleman last year. I loved him. I was all in. I was take him, move back to 15 and take him. I was all in on Keon Coleman. I got talked out of it. I listened to people that I trusted that said, he's too slow and he's not going to be able to separate at the next level and so on and so forth. And I did not stick to my guns on that. And that's on me. That's on me for not sticking to my guns and not believing what I saw in limited. And I'll be honest with you, I didn't watch a ton of film after they said, he's not the guy. He's not. I said, okay, fine. He's not the guy. Let's move on to someone else. And so I should have stuck to my guns on that one because I did like Coleman. And I thought he could be a really good player. And it turns out he's been pretty damn good for the Bills. And now again, he hasn't been some superstar rookie. I mean, he hasn't been the best receiver on the field or anything like that, but still he's been pretty damn good. And so, Coleman has been solid, and unfortunately, Legette goes 32 and Coleman goes 33, and it's just and that's the hard thing where it's then you trade out and McConkey goes 34, and you're just man, because Ladd I thought was gonna be a slot guy, and he's not really a slot guy. I mean, he plays out of the slot, but he plays outside too. He's doing everything for LA, and it's that's a big miss for the Patriots, obviously, but at the same time, it's just well, I mean, those things happen. You're going to make mistakes like that. And I'm okay with it. And Javon Baker, people were oh, Baker, it sucks. And he's this and that. Yeah. But that was that was a swing. Like that was a swing anyways, right?
Day
Like,
3.
that's one of those ones where it's like, hey, this guy has some potential. Let's just see what happens, right? And let's see if we can get him playing the right way. Obviously, he's not playing the right way yet, but hopefully they can get him there. I don't know if they can or not, but hopefully they can.
Yeah. No, and he's a guy. I mean, getting benched on kickoff return duty, like that's tough. That's not what you want to see out of him. And there were some seems to be off the field red flags with him coming out. That's why he went where he did, and those
Yeah.
have. It's not about him being like a good or bad person or anything like that. So it seems to be focused, attention to detail, ability to pick this stuff up. Hasn't translated yet.
Right.
Doesn't mean it won't next year. But like this is when the last time the Patriots took receivers in the second and fourth rounds was Aaron Dobson and Josh Boyce, and like we're on trajectory for worse than that right now. So let's hope that that's not how that goes. But going back to last week's performance, I will say, for going through I charted the whole defense trying to figure out what's going on. I felt better than I expected to after it, especially looking at some of the stats. I do think we should put the last couple weeks in context here. The Bears, a rookie quarterback, and played so poorly it got the offensive coordinator fired.
Right.
The next 2 games are against 2 of the best offensive minds in the NFL. Sean McVay has won a Super Bowl. He's been to 2. He has this genius offense that spawned a whole bunch of children around the NFL. One of them in Miami with what they're doing. They might have the best 1-2 punch at receiver. I was very impressed with Tua. First of all, going back through the tape, I thought he made a couple of really, really, really nice throws where the Pats had good coverage and just got beat. That happens. I thought the run defense was good. I thought the play calling generally was all right. The issue was twofold. One, the entire offense is built to put your linebackers in stress. Linebackers aren't that good. Maybe that's the coaching. Maybe that's the players. We don't really know yet. But like, they're down to backup linebackers. These guys don't play well. And the other thing was like some miscommunications. A lot of it just being Kyle Tucker. Like all 4 touchdowns that Miami scored, Kyle Duggar was involved in. He had a really bad day. Sometimes a good player has a bad day like that. They had a defensive penalty on 3rd down too. A couple nice throws from Tua. This isn't out of line with what Miami has been doing with Tua healthy this year.
Right.
Since he came back in week 8, I think it is. Not even including the game against New England, it's the number 1 pass offense in the NFL by EPA.
Yeah.
So, like I went back and I was like, there's things that they should have done better. I think the Patriots probably should have held in the red zone a couple times to force a couple extra field goals.
Right.
They need to communicate better, and that was like 1 touchdown is Kyle Duggar in man coverage on Jonnu Smith. And he sees that Jonnu Smith stays in the block, so he falls into zone coverage, except Jonnu wasn't staying into block. He releases into a route. Duggar gets there too late. Lack of focus. They talked about that after the game. And then 2 others were guys in motion where they just didn't pick it up correctly. And somebody got lost, and you get out of position. That offense does to you. I thought they actually handled the motion relatively well for most of the game. They just happen to have a couple of breakdowns right in the red zone where it turns into touchdown where you can't have it. So, gotta play better next week. You gotta handle that stuff. And I think it's coaching, but it's not like play calling. It's not like anything like that. It's just that these guys. It seems like these guys are on the same page in practice about it, and then once it's game environment, a whole lot of reps, the real speed of some of these players, it's breaking down.
Right. But again, that does come down to coaching, right? I mean, that's, like ultimately you're going to have those mental mistakes, and those mental mistakes are at the end of the day on the coaching. Like they have to get you prepared for those plays. And if you're not prepared, that's on the coaching staff. And look, I mean, regardless of how good those offenses are, right? You got to be better than the Patriots were. And I just thought that the amount of unforced errors, certainly defensively, right? Offensively, we'll talk about the offensive line in a bit, but like offensively, whatever. But defensively, it's like you got to at least show up, right? And some of those mental errors, and Duggar made a bunch of them where you just like, what are we doing here, man? Like, where are we? Did you pay attention in the film room at all, right? Or what are the coaches talking about, right? What were the talking points? And so that's some of the hard stuff to deal with. For me personally, I think this week's a huge week. A huge week. The Colts stink. They're not good, but Anthony Richardson can throw the ball a mile, right? And he's a really good running quarterback. And so how can you deal with that offense that has looked better since he got benched and came back? And if it's mental breakdowns all over the place again, well, then you look at it and say, all right, I know the last 2 weeks have been bad, but like now we're in, but like you said, against very good coaching with veteran quarterbacks, like, okay, fine. If it's really bad again this week, now we have a serious problem. And now we got to start thinking about, okay, what's going on the defensive staff? Like DeMarcus Covington obviously is in over his head. And so either you're going to have to either A, fire him and hire someone else, or B, do what Baltimore did and hire someone like a Dean Pease, who obviously Baltimore hired, but someone like a Dean Pease who can come in and be a consultant for him because he just can't do it on his own, right? And so, you have to kind of have that situation. I do also think that, and look, people can bash Mayo as they do, right? As many people do. But I think he got done a little bit of a disservice in the fact that he has zero experience around him. Zero. None. Nothing. Nobody. Right? The linebackers coach is Donta Hightower. Love Donta Hightower. Love him. One of my favorite players to play here. You know how much coaching experience he has? 0 minutes of coaching experience. 0 minutes of coaching experience. Not high school, not college, not professional. None. Zero. He's the linebackers coach.
That's something I brought up when they hired him. I love the culture add.
Right.
I love how great of a player he was. It's not all like that. Like Jerry Montgomery, a guy they brought in, has experience. Drew Wilkins, their outside linebackers coach, has experience. So like it's not.
Yeah.
But yeah,
there's
not a
lot of them are fairly new, right? And then you talk about Covington, right? You talk about Covington as first-year DC. Alex Van Pelt is not a first-year OC, but he's a first-year play-calling OC. And Jeremy Springer, a first-year special teams coordinator. To combine with Gerard Mayo, a first-year head coach. And it's just like everyone's now learning on the job, right? There's no one that has that experience. It can be like, okay, I know what I'm doing. We're good. And I know Alex Van Pelt has been an offensive coordinator before, but it's not the same when you're designing the offense and calling the plays, right? And so now in game, how do you handle that, right? And so that to me is a challenge.
And
so we're going to see it. It's just right now it's not working, and that's a problem.
And I think what this offseason will be about and these next 5 games is figuring out what specifically is causing it not to work. If it's the coaches, is it something they can improve, or do we need to go in a different direction? If it's the players, is it something these players can be developed to do, or do we have to go in a different direction?
Right.
I got a stat for you here, by the way, on Kyle Duggar. I was getting deep into some stuff, and as always, I'll throw out the PFF, grain of salt. Asterisk on any stat I'm going to mention from there, but it does match what I think everyone has seen. You can break down their coverage grades by man and zone coverage. Kyle Duggar is a zone coverage safety. In 2021, he was the 11th best zone coverage safety in the NFL. In 2022, he was the 6th best zone coverage safety in the NFL. In 2023, he was the 97th best zone safety in the NFL. And so far this year in 2024, he is 92nd. Just
what the hell happened?
Falling off a cliff after 2022. My first inclination on this, I think the first thing you think of is Devin McCourty leaves then.
Right.
So he's put in a different position. But I don't think it ties entirely to what zones he's playing on the field or where he's playing. The first thing I think of with this is like McCourty's a really good leader in the classroom leading up to game week, helping other players get where they need to be. And I wonder if that's an issue for Duggar. I will also say that grade for Duggar this year he's been mostly mediocre in coverage until the last 2 weeks, where it really fell off,
Good bad.
coming back from a foot injury. So I wonder if that's just still nagging and impacting his play. Bottom line is they're going to need more from him because he has to be good for them. And I think if we want to segue this to some other topics here, one thing that caught my eye this week was Michael Jordan barely making it back home to Foxborough before being cut from the team.
Right.
This is something that we have seen, the team being willing to, like, Elliot Wolf has not been trying to move off of players if they are not working, which is a good thing. There's no like sunk cost fallacy here. Like, they're not saying, all right, well, we paid this guy, so we gotta keep him. Especially when there were Kyle Duggar talks at the deadline, and that's brought up. I wonder, depending on what happens down the stretch here, if Kyle Duggar is somebody you're considering moving in the offseason. If you want to move on from him, you don't think it's going to work, you send him to the contract. It's not working. We're going to send him somewhere else.
Yeah. I mean, that's interesting. I mean, but that's something to keep an eye on, because the way he's played this year, and to a certain extent last year, but certainly the way he's played this year, he's certainly not worthy of that contract, right?
No.
And that's an issue. That's definitely an issue, right?
And while we're talking about the zone coverage stuff, you scroll up the list and you look at number 15, and you know who's there? Jabril Peppers, who is back in the building this week. I don't know how in depth we want to go on that situation right now.
We don't need to. The only thing I'm going to say about Jabril Peppers is really simple. He's off the commissioner exempt list. That happened really quick, like real quick. So something tells me that there was an investigation that got done, and the NFL is maybe not pleased with what they saw, but feels comfortable letting him back in, even though his court case has not been officially resolved yet. And so that to me kind of speaks volumes about where he's at. Now, again, that could be totally wrong, but I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting.
And reportedly, the ownership signed off on this, and he talked to them. So the team has had a very firm stance on this issue for a long time now. The fact that they are, I wouldn't say changing their mind. You act this way because you believe that this situation does not fall into the domestic violence category.
Correct.
Because if they believed it did, he would not be on the team anymore. Whether they are correct in that judgment, we'll see. This is going to go through some court proceedings into January. So what I will say is this. I think if ownership gets this wrong, the decision to let him back in on the team, if they finish this year with 3 wins, and then we get into January and Peppers becomes a story again for this,
it's
going to be bad. It's going to be real bad. And that's not, I think there are a lot of things where there are legitimate call them excuses, where the Crafts don't deserve blame for stuff. That falls 100%
absolutely
square on them. And if they didn't read this right, I'm going to be directing quite a lot of criticism their way for that.
Absolutely, right, and deservedly so.
Yeah.
So,
but if from the football perspective, if he's back in the building, that might help Duggar. The middle of their defense has been an issue, and Barmore is back, Peppers is back. We'll see if he plays this week, but they have better bodies in the middle now than they have really at any point since like week 2. So.
Absolutely. Yeah, and obviously you're missing Bentley still, but
but got 2 of the 3 big guys in the middle right now back. So
certainly helpful. So we'll see. All right, you want to do a quick ad read? My quick ad read, and then we'll get going. I want to talk about the offensive line before we go any further.
Yes, let's do that.
All right, so of course I'm here to talk about Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. Now, as we said, Prize Picks puts members first. So all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. With my picks hit, I can get my money in as quick as 15 minutes. And again, they are allowing Venmo on there now, so you can do Venmo to deposit or withdraw as well. It's super quick and easy. So that is definitely great. For this week, they are actually giving you a free entry. Okay. One free entry, which is, I mean, come on now, right? You need to have two guys. They're giving you one free player. They're giving you Tyreek Hill with more than 0.5 receiving yards on Thursday. Come on now. Okay. So, of course, I'm doing that one. And then I'm adding in Amon-Ra St. Brown with more than 4.5 receptions, Jahmyr Gibbs with more than 2.5 receptions, and Jameson Williams with less than 5 reception targets. That's what I got going for this week. So what you're going to do is you're going to download PrizePicks. You're going to put in the promo code CLNS. And when you play your first $5 lineup, they're going to give you $50 free. Again, download the app PrizePicks, put in the promo code CLNS, and they're going to give you $50 when you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game. All right. So let's just get into the offensive line just quickly. And I don't want to spend too much time on the offensive line, although we could do a whole damn show on the offensive line. But here's one of the big things for me, right? And this is where, I have to stick up for Wolf a little bit, right? And a tweet went out. I think it was Jerry Thornton tweeted something out. Jerry Thornton's been very anti-Patriots this year. Just coincidentally after Bill Belichick. Very anti-Patriots this year. Just a coincidence, I'm sure. Has nothing to do with Bill Belichick leaving. But I shouldn't say very anti-Patriots. Very anti-Wolf and Mayo. Nevertheless, Elliott Wolf's pickups have not worked out here, clearly. Right? That's fine. And that's true. And I agree with that. Okay? Chukwuekorfor was a bad signing. The best free agent tackle this year was Jermaine Illuminor. You guys remember Jermaine Illuminor, who played for the Patriots and absolutely sucked when he played for the Patriots? Now he's okay. He's all right. He's fine. Right? But realistically, you weren't getting a great tackle this year in free agency. However, last offseason, Mike McGlinchey, Jawan Taylor, and Orlando Brown Jr. were all free agents. Patriots had a shot, and all three of them, they had the money to sign them. But they decided to sign Riley Reif and Calvin Anderson. Absolute disaster. Dumpster fire. Could have taken a tackle. They did. They took a tackle. They drafted City So. Not right tackle. Guard, who had never played tackle in his college career. Literally hadn't played a snap of tackle in his college career. And they just thought, we can make him a tackle. It's fine. So City So ended up playing guard and was okay last year, and then was so bad this year that he's gotten benched. The guard position, I mean, listen, do we have to rehash the Shaq Mason, the Joe Thuney, franchising Joe Thuney, and then letting him go and getting nothing back for him instead of getting a third-round pick for him when you could have let him walk in 2019 with Tom Brady? Just incredibly, mind-numbingly stupid. In 2020 with Tom Brady. Mind-numbingly stupid that they signed him to the franchise tag instead of letting him walk and getting a third-round pick back. Just so incredibly dumb. You let him walk. You trade Shaq Mason away for nothing. You let Ted Karras walk. Then you have to draft a guard in the first round in Cole Strange. Disaster of a pick. We'll see if he comes back this week and maybe he's like, okay. Right? But you don't have any players. Right? Now, did Caden Wallace look like a superstar? Absolutely not. But if Caden Wallace were healthy, do you know where he'd be? He'd be starting at right tackle right now for the Patriots. Now, I don't know how good he would be doing, but I feel pretty confident in saying he'd be doing a better job than Jermontre Jacobs. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but I feel pretty confident in saying that. Okay? And Layden Robinson hasn't worked out for the Patriots right now. Now, maybe he's going to play. It sounds like he's going to start at left guard for the Patriots on Sunday. We'll see if he can somehow improve on what he did at the beginning of the year. But he has struggled. And so, listen, does Elliott Wolf get a pass for this year on the offensive line? As far as I'm concerned, he gets a little bit of a pass. Next year's all on them. They have the assets to go get something. They have the draft capital to go get something. You better figure it out, right? And I'm not saying we're going to become the best offensive line in football, but you see the graph? I'm assuming I know you saw the graph, Matt. If you didn't see the graph, boys and girls, okay, just go on to Twitter or, X, whatever the hell it's called, or go on to Instagram, or just search the internet, for Christ's sake. I don't know what the graph is called, but you look at the graph, and there's four parts of the graph. There's really good, there's like pretty good, there's bad, and then there's the Patriots. The Patriots are the worst offensive line by, I mean, a landslide. Like the graph, you almost have to zoom out of the graph to see the Patriots. It's that bad. They're the worst at run blocking and the worst at pass blocking. It's just like it's insane how bad they are.
Yeah.
And that's a huge issue for the Patriots. And again, could they have done more this offseason? I guess maybe Jermaine Illuminor over, certainly Jermaine Illuminor right over Truth Score 4. Obviously, that would have been a better signing, right? But it's not like Jermaine Illuminor is the best tackle in the league or anything like that, or that was like a no-brainer pick for them. Like, Illuminor kind of stinks. He's fine, but he kind of stinks. And, the Patriots, we'll see what happens with Caden Wallace, but he's been hurt. And other than that, everyone else is from last year. And so, that's the hard part of it for me, where you look at it and say, how much can we hold them accountable for the players? Now, are the players getting better? Not necessarily. And so that could be on Scott Peters. So that could be like, okay, if we don't feel like that coaching staff. And one thing that you mentioned, and a few people have talked about this, is that Elliott Wolf hasn't had a problem moving on from players that haven't been performing well. And I think that's a great thing. I think you have to look at the coaching staff too, in that exact same way. Are you getting the job done, or are you not getting the job done? Because if you're not getting the job done, we need someone that can't get the job done. Okay? And Scott Peters, if he isn't the guy, let's not wait another year to see if we can figure it out. Let's just go, all right, thanks for the work you did. We appreciate it, but like, get the hell out of here and bring someone else in, right? And so we'll see. But and again, it's mental errors. They can't block a stunt. How can you not block a stunt? It's a TE stunt. You can't block a stunt? That's high school ball. Like, it's just like, that's the type of stuff that just can't happen. And so, some of that's on the players and the guys just not being there for it. And some of that's on the coaching staff. And so, hopefully they'll figure that out by the end of the year. And if Caden Wallace can come back healthy, and if Cole Strange can come back healthy, I think that we have a shot at least not being like the worst offensive line in the history of the football. Still might be the worst offensive line in football, but maybe not the worst in the history of football. That'd be nice.
Yeah, no, I'm glad that they moved off Michael Jordan. He was really solid for them earlier in the year. The issue for the offensive line, like you said, all year has been line games when defensive linemen are moving around and doing stuff. They mentally haven't been with it.
Yeah.
At one point, Michael Jordan was their best player there. He hasn't been for a while. So they're moving on to give Layden Robinson, an opportunity here. It sounds like at left guard. It sounds like what they would like is Robinson at left guard, Cole Strange at center once those guys are back. So we're not seeing that this big, I think we're going to see that after the bye. And then, they claimed Lester Cotton from Miami, who hasn't been a great player, but, he has started for Miami at points, and I think Las Vegas too, and he's got some experience. So I like that they're keeping it fresh. Like, he's a Michael Jordan level player.
Yeah.
So, but he's different from a different scheme. All right, we'll try him out and see how he does. But they have to, this offseason offensive line is going to be a big priority. Thankfully, I don't know if you saw what I had written, Pat, but put an article on Pat's Pulpit earlier this week breaking down the free agency class and the draft class at tackle. And if things break right, there will be, top half of the league or top 20 tackles available for them to sign. Obviously, we'll have to see how things bear out here, but they can upgrade the tackle room heading into the draft, so you don't even have to draft someone if you don't want to.
That'd be real nice. If they can get a guy like Ronnie Stanley, that'd be awesome. Yeah.
And I think the thing is, like, Valerian Lowe, when we're not talking about the penalties, isn't awful. He's a good backup left tackle, I think.
Yeah.
You just want him to be a backup and not a starter. If Valerian Lowe has to play 4 games for you in a season, I think right now that's fine.
Right.
He could play 4 games in the middle of the regular season on a championship caliber team or something if somebody gets hurt.
Right.
But like he can't be a starter on a championship caliber team. That's what we're trying to build. So finding ways to address that, and I think the veteran market will be huge. And then I agree with what you said about the coaching staff. Like the way I kind of put it with basically everyone in the building right now is I personally am not calling for them to get fired. I haven't reached that point with anyone yet. But if they like end up on the outs, I think it's fully understandable, and I really won't have much to too many complaints about them choosing to move on.
Right.
It's just the results aren't good right now. When the results aren't good, changes happen. We
Yep.
talk about Mayo in relation to Dan Campbell as someone who was a positional coach, elevated, who's supposed to be a culture guy, who came in and had an awful Lions team his first year in the league. They fired the offensive coordinator after year 1. That was Anthony Lynn. They moved on. They promoted Ben Johnson from within. He ended up being their offensive coordinator. And then the next year, they came to New England and got the doors blown off them by the Patriots. And a couple weeks later, after getting toasted by Bailey Zappi, they fired their their defensive backs coach too. So it took a couple changes there. And something Evan Lazar noted this week, he went back to Mayo's introductory press conference. In the introductory press conference, he mentioned, I might not get it right the first time on his coaching hires. I can't be the judge fully if he got it right at this point.
Right.
I can't say it's very possible he didn't with the results that we're seeing, and I won't be shocked if they decide to go in a different direction at the end of the season. I do think basically I wouldn't put Alex Van Pelt in this category really because I think he's done a decent job, but basically everyone else in that building right now should feel like they're coaching for their jobs down the stretch.
Yeah, that's how I want them to feel.
And I don't think Mayo or Wolf are going to get canned just because I don't think Kraft would have would pull that off. Maybe if the Patriots get blown out in the next 5 games, I think that might be on the table.
Right.
But as long as they look competitive over the stretch here, they're going to be back next year. Whether or not people like it, that's going to be what's going to happen. That's the reality of the people involved in this. So that means that if they're keeping their jobs and things are bad, there's probably going to be some moving parts down below them. I'm curious to see who they think is a problem. Because if they keep Scott Peters, that tells you that internally they think it's the players, not the coach.
Right.
If they keep Dante Hightower, that might be, and they think it's the players and not the coach at linebacker, or Drew Wilkins or whatever. So that Tyler Hughes at wide receiver, these are wide receivers coach. So we're going to learn very quickly. I think Hughes is I'm not loving the wide receiver coaching at this point, although it could just be the players there. They just don't look.
I mean, it's hard to know.
Not good there.
Yeah, it's really hard to know, whether it's the coaches or the players. And, it's the scheme. I don't know.
It's obviously kind of both right now, and it's hard to figure out exactly how much of the blame. And that's why I'm I wouldn't necessarily call for some of these guys to get fired, but it looks really bad and people lose their jobs when that happens. And if you don't have anything you can point to on a stat sheet or on a scoreboard or on a PFF grade even that says, hey, this is what I was doing well, you don't have a leg to stand on if they say we want to go in a different direction. And there's a lot of coaches that applies to right now.
That is correct. Absolutely. Almost all of them, right? And look, as far as Vidarian Lowe, when you mentioned him, right, is that I think he's unfairly targeted a little bit, just like I think AVP is unfairly targeted. Vidarian Lowe is not great by any stretch of the imagination, but he's the best tackle on the team right now by a good margin, by a pretty comfortable margin, right? And I think that the penalties sometimes are not great. I thought one of the false start penalties, I thought was a bad call. Maybe not a bad call, but a questionable call. Did he get a little bit of a jump on the snap? Yes. Does every offensive lineman do that on every single play? Yes. So okay, didn't love that call. The holding call, on the Ramondre Stevenson screen, I thought was garbage. The guy fell down. It was pretty clear he fell down. watching it live, I was just like, what? Where's the hold? They showed the replay, and I'm like, what is this? So, just I thought a bad call there. And his second, I think I talked about this on this last one on the show on Sunday, but like the other false start they had, the Dolphins guy jumped into the neutral zone, and instead of Mike Onwenu or Ben Brown reacting to him and getting a free 5 yards, right? It was Vidarian Lowe on the left side that ended up reacting to that.
Too late once he'd come back across the line.
Correct. And so now when he jumps, it's a false start, right? And so, and that's something where, like, take the free 5 points. If a guy jumps in, move, do something so that you can get those 5 yards, right? And I think that, I almost wonder if Lowe was like in his head trying to get that 5 yards, but like reacted too late for that. You know what I mean? And that's
I think he expected either that, or he expected that he was anticipating they were going to snap it to try to catch them while they were offsides. Right. And and that's like a lot of the mistakes the team has made. Both sides of the ball have kind of been understandable. It's just guys like not playing at a high enough level. Like, I get why they did what they did. You just can't do it. It's tough. Too many mistakes.
The one thing I'll say about AVP, and this has now happened 2 weeks in a row with Pop Douglas in particular, the miscommunications with Pop Douglas are concerning, not because Pop Douglas doesn't know what he's doing, but because the answers that we're getting are weird answers, right? I don't like the answers that we're seeing, because on the interception against the Rams last week, when May throws it, and it wasn't a great throw. Clearly wasn't a great throw. It was a little bit behind Pop Douglas, but he thought Pop was going to stop in the middle, and he was going to try to hit him between those two safeties because he saw the too deep, right? Okay, makes sense. Pop Douglas says, no. I was running the whole way. I don't know what. I'm not stopping there, right? AVP seemed to be like, well, I don't know. I'm not really sure. Well, then you had another play, I believe it was on third down, where Pop Douglas is wide open on a slant. There's a blitz coming. Should have been a hot read. And he keeps running the slant instead of stopping in the zone. And the problem is that you have a linebacker coming back who, looked like he was going to rush, but came back out, and he's throwing into that coverage, right? If he makes that pass and follows where Pop Douglas is going, he's throwing into that coverage. And so it made no sense. Like, he should have sat down there. And Pop saying, you don't think he should have sat down?
No, in this offense, he's not supposed to. And Alex Van Pelt actually answered this today. The reason the throw was off was because Douglas cut the route off too early. It was a 5-step slant and not a 3-step, or like it's like a 3 instead of a 3-yard or 5-yard or whatever it was. Supposed to run the slant deeper in that situation, and he cut it off early because of the pressure, and you're not supposed to do it. So, like, this isn't the way this offense works. It's not like the Brady offenses where if there's a blitz, somebody just finds a hole and sits down and Brady finds them. In this style of offense, if there's a blitz, there's just one route that immediately the quarterback's going to throw to, but the people aren't changing their routes based off of it. I have my concerns with that approach as well. But like it has worked. And on that, if we're about to play against the Dolphins this week, that he and May were not on the same page.
Yeah.
I think it's a touchdown if May hits him on it, like, because it was one man to beat and there's a whole lot of grass.
Right, but the thing that I'm concerned about is the fact that we didn't get a satisfactory answer from the players. Now, AVP cleared it up right after the fact where he made that comment, but Pop Douglas was like, no, I'm not changing anything. I have a slant on that play. It's like, but you were in the wrong route. Like, what are we talking about here, dude? Like, if you do have a slant on that play, or if May is thinking that, you should be sitting down in that spot or whatever, like, because I thought May said, I thought he'd be sitting down in that spot. And I'm like, then Pop says, no, I had a regular slant. And I'm like, what are we talking about?
May didn't say anything about it. May said
I thought he did.
Throw. Yeah.
Okay.
No, and that's where Alex Van Pelt specifically cleared up this play today, which I thought was good. Kind of.
So I must have missed that today, obviously.
Yeah. But I think one of the reasons that the wires get crossed sometimes too is that a lot of times Like May just seems to kind of fall on the sword no matter what happens. There's a problem on the offense, it's on him,
Right.
which I think is awesome leadership from a young player.
I
But I
agree.
do think that it will confuse people because people will just then assume it's always him. And I think you want your receiver to do a better job of showing accountability publicly for that kind of stuff. And like this is why I put Tyler Hughes' name out there, because these are the kind of details that you need to be getting right. And maybe it's on Douglas and they're coaching him well and he's not taking. But right now, if that's the case, then we got a room full of wide receivers who are being coached well and none of them are taking it. And I don't know if I really believe that that's what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and that's true. So we'll see. It's just, yeah, a lot of questions moving forward. And I think, you know, as you pointed out, and again, just to kind of repeat it before we go to our second ad break, like I think that everything's on the table and everything should be on the table. And we should be taking a hard look at everyone. And that means Mayo, and that means Wolf, and that means Covington, and that means AVP, and that means every other person out there, right? And I think that, look, I think it's pretty clear that Mayo and Wolf will be back for 2025. What I can tell you is that I think 2026 is a whole nother story. If 2025 goes like this or looks similar to this, right? See you later, dude. Both those guys are fired. Like you can't bring those guys back for a third year if it looks like this again. And I know there's a long way to go. It's a 53-man roster. Like there's a long way to go to turn over the roster, right? And one other thing I'll say, and I just want to make this point because I think it's an important point to make. Remember last year when the Texans all of a sudden became good and D'Amico Ryans was like the best coach in the NFL and Bobby Slowick was like this great, boy genius OC? Things aren't going so hot in Houston right now, right? D'Amico Ryans, a little bit on the hot seat. Fans are calling for Bobby Slowick's head. They want him fired. It changes awfully quick, right? And, who knows why that is? Part of it is that, maybe Stephon Diggs came in and messed up some of the chemistry, or who knows? Whatever the reasoning is, they're certainly not playing like they were last year, right? They're probably going to win that division because that division's absolute trash. But like they're 6-6, right? They were a team that like a lot of people thought was going to, was going to compete for the championship, right? Yeah. And so, that's an issue for me where I look at it and say like, hey man, like we should have been in on this. So I think things can change. So what I'm saying is that now it's obviously gone in the wrong direction, but things can change quickly, right? And so Gerard Mayo may not look good right now. People may not be happy with AVP, but like that doesn't mean that's going to be the case forever.
Yeah, and yeah, we'll see how it goes with that Houston team. They've been. On one hand, I never thought the coaches were as good as they got the hype for last year. Slowick in particular.
Yeah.
The offense has largely been a lot of run the ball twice, get nothing out of it. CJ Stroud bails them out on third down. And it worked really well last year. And Stephon Diggs gets hurt. Mixon, who has been really good for them, was out. So now like you're back to the awful run game. And then Nico Collins misses a big chunk of time. So like the whole thing was basically that Stroud to Collins was just kind of magic for them on third down, and the offense was built around that. And then you take that away, and they just kind of became this not bad, but like mediocre to slightly above average team. And like we are right now, in my eyes, like headed for a Chargers Texans first round matchup in the playoffs in the 5-4 game. I think the Chargers are going to win that.
Yeah, I think so too.
And the discourse is going to be crazy. By the way, I know we still have to do another ad read and do our end of show stuff. We haven't talked about this game on Sunday one bit. I think we should because this is
winnable game.
Colts are only favored by 2.5 points. This is maybe the last winnable game on the schedule for the Patriots with how things shake out after the bye.
Mm-hmm.
Rookie quarterback. I think there's a lot of interesting stuff this week.
Yeah, and you're right. And I think that this is so the interesting thing about this is that the Colts are an offense the Patriots haven't seen this year. Like they haven't seen an offense like this before, where they just run Anthony Richardson. They'll just run him. And I like that. I think that Anthony Richardson has been a lot better. I was very confused about the decision to go back to Joe Flacco in the middle of the season. It made no sense to me.
I do, on that note, real quick here, I do think it's interesting that we've seen 2 quarterbacks get benched this year, Bryce Young and Anthony Richardson, like guys on their rookie deals, both of them to then play later in the season. Both guys have looked better since their benchings. So
yeah, and so maybe it was the right move, you know.
Yeah, man.
And mentally for them, and well, that's the thing, and you wonder, right? I thought it was strange the way it was said. I thought was strange, right? The Colts basically announced that Joe Flacco was going to be their starting quarterback moving forward. Instead of saying, we still believe in Anthony. He needs some time. Right now, we feel like the best chance to win is with Joe Flacco, right? And I think that they could have worded it a lot better. Instead of, I think they said like, Joe Flacco is our quarterback moving forward, right? And that was just kind of like it was worded strangely that I was surprised by. Yeah. Either way, I think that with Alec Pierce and A.D. Mitchell, you get 2 legitimate deep threats. Alec Pierce is a guy that really didn't do much other than go deep. But he's a home run threat every single time he gets on the field. And so that's an interesting guy. Obviously, you have Jonathan Taylor, who's a beast. And their offensive lines, it's okay. Their offensive lines are all right. They went from one of the best offensive lines to like a mediocre, but still decent, I think. I haven't even looked at I don't have the numbers directly in front of me, but I remember seeing that they're pretty good. And the Patriots haven't been able to get pressure on anyone. So it's going to be interesting to see what they not been able to keep guys in the pocket and haven't been able to get pressure on guys. And now you got a guy that wants to run and can run and has a cannon. That's not a great recipe for success.
So it's going to be interesting. So the Patriots have only faced 5 designed quarterback runs this entire season, and now you're going against a guy who will do that, that many times in a game
easily. Yeah,
and it's an offense. The big part of this offense is they want to play action and then attack you deep and attack over the middle of the field, which have been areas of weakness for New England. But you're doing it against a quarterback who's been worse at it. So I think this is an opportunity to take the lessons you learned the last 2 weeks and kind of put some of this stuff into action. But you look at, I want to go through some of the Anthony Richardson stats this year because they are insane. Turnover worthy throw rate. Number of your throws that should be turned instead of counting the interceptions. It's just should a throw get picked off or not. Anthony Richardson, highest turnover worthy throw rate in the NFL.
Yep, that checks out.
Big time throw rate. Anthony Richardson, second highest in the NFL.
Also checks out. Yep.
Average depth of target. Anthony Richardson by a wide margin. The average Anthony Richardson throw down the field is targeting receiver 13 yards down the field. The next closest is Jameis Winston at 10.5 yards.
That's
and
wild.
Everybody else is under 10. Tua is the lowest, by the way, at 6. So more than double what Tua does. His adjusted completion percentage, so this is the number of your throws that are on target, is the lowest in the NFL at 61.1%. And his drop rate is the highest in the NFL at 11.8%, which is an insane combo.
That's a wild combination.
He's not getting the ball to his receivers accurately at all. Worst rate in the NFL, and they also just aren't catching it at the highest rate.
That's crazy. So he must have the lowest. He must have the lowest completion percentage in the league. He has to.
I don't have that in front of me, but yeah, I'm pretty sure
it's got to be right.
A pretty wide margin. Let me pull this up. Yeah. Oh yeah. His completion percentage, it's 12 points worse than Jacoby Brissett, who's the next closest.
That's crazy.
Completion percentage is 47.1%. So yeah, no, it's going to be all over the place. He's a hard player to bring down too as a runner, as is Jonathan Taylor, their other guy. Other running back, and it's like the whole team for the Colts is boom or bust.
Yeah.
Also, offensive line's good. They don't handle blitzes well. A story to watch on the offensive line. Bernard Raymond is our usual left tackle starter. He has been out for a bit. He is limited in practice right now. The guy starting at left tackle for the Colts, Matt Gonsalves, a third-round rookie who has been better by PFF grade at least than I think like any offensive lineman the Patriots have put out there this year. He was picked like 15 spots after Caden Wallace. This is the guy I liked in the draft.
Me too.
He had like 4 spot versatility. We thought he could play anything but center on the line. And that, I think, is really tough. 71 at left tackle if he's going to start there. And then one other note on I throw 2 more notes in on the Colts. One, Josh Downs is almost definitely going to be out this week. So they're going to be down their slot receiver.
It's big.
That's going to thrust Alec Pierce into a bigger role, who my first exposure to Alec Pierce was on Marcus Jones's college tape when he dunked on Marcus Jones for like the entire game. So I hope we don't have that happen.
Yeah, that wasn't good.
Then
Marcus Jones had a nice pass breakup in the back of the end zone though.
That was the most competitive like dunking I've ever seen. Marcus Jones was like in his face on every rep, and it didn't matter.
Yeah,
it's insane. And then defensively, the Colts play like the highest rate of cover 3 in the league, and they're not that good at it. Like this is the old Gus Bradley Seahawks defense, except they don't have the Legion of Boom back there.
Yeah.
So, and then they like to blitz on third down, which the Patriots have had a hard time picking up the last couple of weeks. So, like, I think both teams are going to blitz because both lines have struggled with it. Both these quarterbacks will turn the ball over, but can hit big throws. It's probably going to be just who can get more big plays on Sunday, I think.
Yeah, let's hope with the Patriots because, man, the Colts stink. I mean, it's hard because I know the Patriots stink too, but so it's just like it's difficult when you play these bad teams and you look so bad. Like Jacksonville's a terrible team, and the Patriots looked awful against them. Yeah. You know, the Titans are a bad team, and the Patriots looked awful against them. And it's like,
no, I wouldn't say we looked awful because we took them to overtime.
That's true. It looks pretty bad. The Patriots looked pretty bad against them.
For sections of that game, at least.
Yes.
Yeah. When it was bad, that game, it was really bad.
Right. And so, you know, that's one of those things for me. So we'll see. I mean, I just, you know, it's frustrating. So we'll see, and let's hope they can figure it out. But my goodness, you know, if they can't, it's going to be a long day in Foxborough.
And the last 4 games of the year are all against teams with winning records as of right now. So
yeah, like, well, it doesn't help that 2 are against the Bills.
Yeah, like those we could pretty much just chalk up as losses unless Week 18 the Bills rest their starters. But like, man, the Bills could rest their starters and still beat the Pats the way things have been this year.
Yeah,
like,
the Chargers and the Cardinals are both
in the hunt.
Fun, right, young teams in the hunt. Like, you know, Patriots getting steamrolled by those 2 teams. If
you don't win this week, there's a real chance you're going to finish this year with 3 wins.
Yep.
And that to me is like that's where Mayo is in the danger zone. If we want to go back to that topic.
Yeah.
If they have less wins than they did last year, that I think is where I don't think he's going to get fired, but I do think there is actually a chance of that happening. If they get the 4th win, if they win on Sunday, he is safe going into next year.
I agree with you on that. And I think too, like you get 3 wins. I mean, everyone's on the chopping block. I think too, like you could look at Elliott Wolf and say, we're not happy about, you know, we're not happy with Wolf and everything else. And so I think that, you know, everything's up for debate. So
yep. Next 5 games, next 6 weeks are critical.
Yeah, agreed. By the way, Edward mentions it. Of course, he hates it because why wouldn't he? But the Patriots are wearing their throwbacks on Sunday. Just a gorgeous uniform that makes absolutely no sense, but a gorgeous uniform that I'm very much looking forward to. Someone posted, was it I forget who it was. I don't know if it was Doug Hyde or I don't think it was. I can't remember. It doesn't matter. Either way, someone posted a picture of Gonzo from practice, and they were saying that
was Hyde who said it. Yeah.
Was it Hyde? I was right. That the white helmet with the blue shirt looks really nice, and I was like, he's got a point. He's got a point there. That the white helmet with the blue shirt does look pretty nice. You know, I don't think they'd do that. I do think it sounds like they're going to switch it up next year. I doubt they're going to change their logo, but they could,
I think
but I doubt
think
they're going
logo
to.
and my guess is logo and helmet are staying the same. I think
Yeah,
those are. It's basically been that exact same logo and helmet since Kraft came around,
right.
and
So it
like
feels like it's going to stay the same. Yeah.
and I like it. Like I really like the helmet they have right now.
Me
I
too.
wouldn't change it.
Yeah.
It's not. It's not a design. Like it's funny because the silver with the red for a helmet is not what you would come up. Like if you were the Patriots were a new team and you said it's going to be silver, red, white, and blue are their colors, and you said make a silver helmet for them, like red face mask is going to be like your last option. Like you're gonna go, oh, we're gonna go blue to make it work, but they went red, and I think it works has always
Yeah.
looked good with the jerseys they've had.
That I agree with. I really like the red face mask a lot. Yeah. So
Yeah, but yeah, no
all
throwbacks
right.
this week. Got to beat the Colts.
Yep, agreed. So all right, let's get into our ad read, and then we'll do our picks for the weekend.
Yeah, I'm here to talk to you guys about game time. You know the spiel. At this point, it's football season. Weather's getting cold. It's Thanksgiving, and we're all going to be sitting around on Thursday, and now on Friday. Black Friday game, watching football. And if you want to get to a Patriots game, the cheapest and easiest and fastest way to do that is going to be with Game Times. Their new feature, Game Time Picks, makes getting tickets so much easier, so much simpler. You can just pull up the map, go into the app, search for the game, pull it up, and it's going to show you a map of the stadium, and the best value seats are all just going to be highlighted for you. You can click all in pricing. So the price you see is the price you pay. You can hit game time picks and it'll just filter out all the other ones. It'll just show you the best value deals everywhere. You want to sit near Pat? You can do that this week for just $180. You can get in the building for as low as $93, fees included. You want to see Drake May and Anthony Richardson battling it out in a great uniform matchup at Foxborough, and you can sit right behind the Patriots bench for $226. I can tell you that is a lot cheaper, and you're able to do that in the Dynasty era. And Game Time makes it super cheap and easy and accessible to do. I've had experience with them. I have enjoyed their site quite a bit. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account. Use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CLNS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time.
Love it. All right, let's get into our picks, my friend. You want to pull up the screen here and see what the picks looked like last week?
That was last week.
That Steelers won. I said the worst part is we said it on the show. We said it on the show. We can see the Browns winning. I didn't have the guts to do it. I should have done it, and I couldn't do it. And I didn't pull the trigger on the Browns. And of course the Browns won. What are you gonna do?
Yeah, that's that was a fun game with the snow coming down. Yeah, tough picks for us there. Both got the Vikings. That game ended up being way closer than we thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
Both got the Ravens. They looked good, and then split the 4:00 and the Sunday night. I don't know that Rams defense. So that Rams offense did not perform the way I thought it was going to.
No. And Saquon. I mean, I had Saquon. Anyone that had Saquon Barkley in fantasy, for the first half, like he was fine, right? And then the first play of the second half, he breaks one for 70, and then later on in the fourth quarter, he goes for I think it was the fourth quarter, either the late third quarter or early fourth quarter. He breaks out another 56-yard touchdown run or something like that. It goes for 255. Just an absolute monster. And he's unbelievable.
I love it. We got a big game coming up with the Eagles this week, by the way, which we're about to get to with the schedule. First of all, I'm still up 2 games on you before we're even there.
It's flipped.
I'm 40-20. You're 38-22.
Man, I was winning all year, and it's flipped.
Yeah. The 5 games we got this week, we got Dolphins Packers on Thanksgiving, Chargers Falcons at 1:00, Eagles Ravens at 4, 49ers Bills is the Sunday night game, and then Browns Broncos in the Monday night. Starting Thanksgiving here, Pat. Tua going to the Tundra.
Yes, that's right. And it's cold weather, bro. It's cold weather. The Dolphins have been playing great, but they suck in the cold. Give me the Packers.
Yeah, I get that. I totally get that with the way Tua has played, but man, with the way Miami's offense looks right now,
Mm.
I think it should be a really fun, high-scoring affair.
Yep.
It's not going to be so cold. I don't think that it's going to be that big of an issue. So I'm going to take Miami.
Yeah. Yeah, I like it. I will say Josh Jacobs, the way Josh Jacobs ran last week, just absolutely bulldozing people. I was impressed. And so, Miami might be able to hold up against that, but my goodness, they have a decently good passing attack with Jordan Love. If they can, if they can really lean on Josh Jacobs here at the end of the year, they can go some places.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree there. The only thing with Love is that he's very willing to throw into traffic.
Sure is.
He'll make mistakes.
Yeah.
And yeah, in a game like this, I think that could be costly. I also think this is going to be a big prove-it game for Miami. They're trying to dig themselves out of an early season hole.
Mhm.
They're on the road in prime time in a cold environment where the NFL set them up with a ton of cold environments down the stretch too. But
Yeah,
I think this will be a big prove-it game where they're going to come out and play well.
all right. Okay.
Yeah.
Next up, Chargers Falcons, the 1:00 game. Chargers Falcons on Sunday. And, the Falcons started off super hot, have come back down to earth a little bit. They still have a shot at winning that division in the NFC South. But the Chargers, man, are gelling at the right time. I know that they lost last weekend to the Ravens in the Harbaugh Bowl, but I just feel like the Chargers win this game. I just think that their defense and the way they play, I feel like they have an advantage over the Falcons. So I'm going Chargers here.
Yeah, I'm going same thing as you here. Falcons are just I don't know what to make of this Falcons team. I really feel like I kind of forgot they existed.
Yeah.
They just they're there.
Right.
I'm fully bought in right now to what Jim Harbaugh is doing with the Chargers. So I'm gonna pick them.
I like it. Makes sense. Yeah. So, all right, 4:00 game is Eagles at Ravens, and we just talked about the Eagles. Of course, this is the battle of elite running backs that change teams over the year, and I think this is really kind of a case study on, what happens when you get an elite running back into that situation, right? Into a new situation. Saquon Barkley. And the interesting thing about Saquon is that, okay, if Saquon were on the Giants, would he be as good as he is right now on the Eagles? I don't know. If Derrick Henry were on Tennessee still, would he be as good as he is in Baltimore? Probably not. So it's I think running back is still important, but it's almost like a cherry on top type of important as opposed to carrying the team important. Either way, they've both been incredible. They're both kind of up for offensive player of the year, depending on what goes on. Henry's been awesome. Saquon's been awesome. But anyways, all that being said, I'm going Ravens here. I think it's a really fun matchup. This is two awesome teams. Both defenses have played pretty well, but also have struggled at times. Both offenses are electric and can score pretty much any time. And so I really like both teams, but I'm going Ravens over the Eagles.
I am going to agree with you here. I'm hyped for this game, though.
Yeah.
This is going to be cold. I think it's going to drop below freezing by the end of this game. It's on real grass. It's two running quarterbacks with great running backs and great offensive lines. This should just be hard-nosed, physical, old school football. And I'm so excited. I think the Ravens are just the better team right now, but there's a real chance this is a Super Bowl preview.
Yeah.
Both of these teams, I think, expect to find themselves playing on Conference Championship Sunday at the very least. And when that happens, this can be a preview of the Super Bowl. So I do think the Ravens are a better team at this point, though.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I like it. All right, 49ers and Bills on Sunday Night Football. I did say Gerard Mayo will have a job with the Patriots next year, guaranteed. However, if for some ungodly reason San Fran looks at the season that they've had this year, and there have been some people that have said it, San Fran sucks this year, and part of that's the coaching, and Kyle Shanahan could be fired. If that were to happen, I would fire Gerard Mayo in a millisecond and just make Kyle Shanahan the highest paid coach in football. Like I would do that in a heartbeat. It won't happen. I assume it won't happen because the 49ers can't be that stupid. But nevertheless, they have struggled this year. I get it. And so, I don't know how you could pick the Niners in this game. I'm picking the Bills. Maybe Purdy will be back. Maybe he won't. I don't know. I don't think it really matters. I'm picking the Bills here.
Yeah, I don't. This game was a lot more interesting when it was scheduled than it is right now.
Yeah.
And this game might end up being close just because the Niners are well coached. And, they might make it competitive and it might be low scoring, but I think the Bills might. They should win this pretty easily, really. The 49ers team we've seen this year.
Well, right. And not only that, but right, I mentioned it before, right? But like Josh Jacobs, who, is on the Packers now, absolutely ran it through their faces on Sunday. Just absolutely annihilated what should be a really good 49ers defense. Just ran all over them. And so that's something I did not expect to see, and that's something that has happened this year. So, so we'll see. I think the Bills going to kill them, though.
Yeah. Yep, agreed. And then Monday Night Football, Browns at Broncos.
Love it. Love it. What a fun matchup this is. Jameis playing against Bo Nix, who Bo Nix is firmly in the discussion for offensive rookie of the year. He's been fantastic.
Played well. Yeah.
Not making mistakes, just not making any mistakes. I don't think he's thrown a pick since week 2. He's not, and that may not be true. But I think he's only thrown like 3 picks all year long. He's been really solid, smart with the football. Has a little bit of that gunslinger in him, but at the same time, like isn't doing stupid things. And so I'm a fan of Bo Nix. I was not a believer in Bo Nix, and I have become a believer in Bo Nix. And I think a big part of that is Sean Payton. I thought Sean Payton was done after last year. After seeing what happened, turns out he just needed his guy at quarterback. And he's really turned Payton into a good player. So not Payton, Bo Nix into a good player. So anyways, all that being said, I'm going with the Broncos over the Browns.
Yep. I am going to be right there with you. It's a better team. The Browns team. They won last week because it was a divisional game, and it was Thursday night, and it was weird weather. That's all it is. You want to know something I think more interesting than the play on the field to me? When you think of the Browns and the Broncos, aesthetically, these are two of like the orange teams in the NFL. The Browns are wearing their all-white throwback uniforms this week. And the Broncos are wearing their new white helmets once they broke out last year against New England with the blue jerseys that are their alternates. There's only 2 of the orange teams. There's going to be no orange. There's a real chance it's going to be all white versus like basically all navy blue.
Yeah, it's so weird.
It could have been like a colorful matchup, and instead it's going to turn to a very boring looking football game.
Yeah, it's strange.
It'll match the play on the field too, because these teams. Like Bo Nix is efficient, he's effective in that offense, but like this Broncos team gives me 2021 Patriots vibes.
Yeah, plodding, slow. Yeah.
Well, like great defense, rookie quarterback, game manager with a good offensive coach propping him up, to help making the stats look good. Like, if this Broncos team ends up in the playoffs, man.
Right. Yeah. And RIP to all the fantasy owners like me that dropped Cortland Sutton 5 or 6 weeks into the season, and who's just absolutely been incredible the last 4 or 5 weeks.
Oh yeah, you know what you got to do, Pat? All the listeners, the Ringer Fantasy Football Show, their episode yesterday, their most recent episode came out. One of the guys just listed the order of like the top 30 wide receivers that went off the board in one of his leagues. And it was like, I think there were 4 of them where whoever drafted the receiver felt good about them in fantasy at this point.
Yeah,
It's
which
just
is
so
wild.
many injuries and
Insane.
offense falling apart. Like,
Well, even like Tyreek Hill, Miami's back, and Tyreek Hill's done nothing for them.
I know.
Nothing.
I have him, unfortunately.
You know, it's crazy. So,
yeah. But
by
the
the
running
way,
backs, on the other hand, have been all like, outside of like C-Matt, have all been healthy.
yeah, it's totally true. So, by the way, just to clarify the Bo Nix thing, I was wrong about 0 interceptions, but Bo Nix started the first 2 games, 0 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. Since the third game, because the third game he had 0 and 0. Since the 4th game of the season, I guess after the first 3 games of the season, he's thrown 16 touchdowns and only 2 interceptions since those 2 games. So he's been incredibly efficient with the ball, you know, and pretty solid. Now, week 4, in that game where he had 1 touchdown, 0 interceptions, he had 60 passing yards against the Jets. But nevertheless, still only 1 touchdown, no interceptions. So, anyways, so just wanted to clarify that note because I did say he had 0 interceptions. And that was false. So,
Close.
anyways, all right. Prize picks. Let's get into our prize picks.
Yeah.
I already read my prize picks one, but I will read it to you again. Get it in by Thanksgiving. If you can get it in by Thanksgiving, if you're listening live, certainly if you're even listening on the podcast, this will be out on Thanksgiving. So if you can get it in before the game starts, they're giving away a player in your lineup. Tyreek Hill, more than 0.5 receiving yards. 0.5. If Tyreek Hill has 1 receiving yard, you win. Come on now. Okay. And then all you need is 1 other guy. Or you can add in extra guys like I did, because why not? You know, let's have fun with it. So, anyways, Tyreek. So my pick here, Tyreek Hill, more than 0.5 receiving yards. Amon-Ra St. Brown, more than 4.5 receptions. Jahmyr Gibbs, more than 2.5 receptions. And Jameson Williams, less than 5 targets. What do you got there, Matt?
I've got a Thanksgiving special here. I'm taking 2 Lions players for mine.
Okay.
Jahmyr Gibbs, more than 20.5 receiving yards.
Love it.
And Tim Patrick, more than 22.5 receiving yards.
Okay, little Tim Patrick. All right.
Yeah. I like me some Tim Patrick stuff.
I like that.
That's what I'm going for. And that game's starting in 13 hours. So get those picks in.
Yep. Yeah, it's pretty wild when that game starts. You know, I mean, obviously tomorrow's Thanksgiving, but that's great. So, So anyways, all right. I think that's it. You got anything else before we head out?
What are you thankful for from this Patriots season? It's Thanksgiving.
Oh, what am I thinking? Drake May. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, that's.
I mean,
might
what
be
else?
the only thing.
What else could we be thankful? But you know,
Gonzalez,
honestly, yeah,
Christian Barmore for getting healthy and getting back on the field.
That's a great point. I am happy that Christian Barmore's back and healthy, which is great. That's an injury that has derailed, careers, right? And didn't do that to him, which is nice. And he was able to come back this year, which is great. So, but yeah, Drake May. I mean, you mentioned it, right? We don't know if we have the quarterback. I mean, we don't know if we have the head coach. We don't know if we have the OC or the DC or even the GM. We get the quarterback. And that's sometimes the hardest one to find. So, if you have the quarterback, I think that, hopefully all those other pieces will fall into place.
Yep. Fingers crossed.
Yep. So anyways, well, thanks for listening. As always, we appreciate it, guys. Be good to each other and go Pats. And we'll talk to you on Sunday night in between on halftime of Sunday Night Football.